You are not considered as a member of our family, so just do your job as a domestic help.
We are invited to celebrate my brother-in-law's son, but according to them, I am not part of the family.
A wife that can't have babies is useless.
It's not the first time that my mother-in-law condemned me for not being able to have a child, but there will be a surprised fact. I'm Jessica, 30 years old. I continue working at the same place even after I got married. My husband is 33 years old. We've been married for 4 years, but no babies. We didn't actively try to have a baby. We thought of having one, but we couldn't. We visited the fertility clinic to see if there is some problem. In result, my husband has problem, and it is difficult to get me pregnant. My husband begged me not to tell his family about he is the cause. We discussed many times what we do, then we decided to come naturally. But its chances are slim to none, so most likely it will be only us. We guessed someday they might ask the cause and reasons, or if we ever seek the doctor for help. We decided when it happened, we will think what to say. But I never knew this decision was leading me to the hell. My mother-in-law, late 50s, thinking that I am the one having a problem of infertility, she interferes that I should quit working to concentrate on having a baby, or even very private matter, like if I'm refusing to have sex with him, etc. When she got bored interfering my private life, she started to trash talk. She sent me messages on SNS saying, "You are the problem, can't have a baby, useless as a woman, you are humiliating my son," etc. At the beginning, I used to reply to each message, but it became too many to reply. When I couldn't reply each message, she started to call me. She just says the same thing, but I could tell from her tone and voice that she has bad intentions. She calls when my husband is not at home. It's not frequent as SNS messages, but it bothers me that I hear her voice in my head after hanging up. Nevertheless, I only see her twice a year, so I chose to put up with it. But little by little, my body started to show that the stress is eating me up. One day, my brother-in-law's son won the first prize in the art competition. They held a gathering to celebrate in the parents-in-law's house. All relatives will be participating, so we must be there too. It takes 2 hours to drive to their house. It's very hard for me to stay in the car for 2 hours because I have pain all over my body lately. Plus, I don't want to see her. I don't want to go if I have options. I have good relationships with my brother-in-laws and my husband, and I like their son Nick very much. If we take turns driving, I can still make it. But my husband had to work that day, so we couldn't go together. So I had to drive myself, and later he will come by public transportation. I told him that I will wait for him until he finishes working. But he didn't like the idea that we'd both be late to show up at the celebration. According to him, it's bad manners for adults. So I drove all the way by myself to their house to be on time. When I arrived, no one was there yet. I was the first one to arrive. But as soon as my mother-in-law saw me, she said, "You are late." Inside, nothing was ready. There were just materials to be used.
Hurry up, you don't have much time. I was surprised to see her cold attitude and asked her what. It's your job to prepare. You are my son's wife, not a guest. Mouse.
I felt like she just left everything for me to do. She continued,
You have been married for 4 years. Then you can tell what you need to make by watching the ingredients. Even if you can't get pregnant, you know what the kids like to eat.
Again, she nagged endlessly about infertility. I had no power left to fight back, so I quietly started cooking. When it was almost done, the relatives began to arrive. My brother-in-law arrived with Nick around that time. Nick came into the kitchen and asked me what I was cooking. I told him I was making his favorite, and he smiled happily. I didn't see his wife, Patty, my sister-in-law. I thought it was very rare not to see her in this gathering because my mother-in-law wouldn't stay quiet without mentioning Patty's absence. And first of all, it was her son's celebration. The food was ready, and only Patty and my husband were missing. My mother-in-law said we should start. Without any doubt, I tried to sit on the empty seat. But my mother-in-law interrupted.
What are you trying to do? It's not time for you to rest. You gotta serve us, making sure food and drinks are enough on the table.
I must check on everything is okay, and I had to make other plates as they requested, and bring dessert, in the best timing. Is there any dessert? Is she expecting that I make them? To make any dessert, it takes many steps and preparation. Do I have to do now?
Don't tell me you didn't prepare them. What a useless wife are you.
I must keep listening and obey her. Because if I don't, for sure she will tell everyone here that I am infertile. I returned to the kitchen while I was making the dessert. I cooked additional dishes and served the drinks to the table. A couple of female relatives noticed that I am the only one attending to them back and forth. They offered to help me, but my mother-in-law stopped them not to.
Don't worry about her. Just let her do. She must be useful at least for something.
What do you mean? Other relatives asked.
Well, don't you agree that a woman who can't get pregnant is worthless?
For a moment, silence dominated, and it made her voice reach clearly to all.
The daughter-in-law who can't have a baby is not part of the family. She is a worthless parasite.
I know I can't defend myself or make a scene. I controlled myself from talking back to her, but unconsciously I was glaring at her.
Oh my goodness, don't stare at me like that. I just say the truth. Jessica, you're the only one who can't even get pregnant among all my relatives. Worthless and useless.
She snickered. One of the relatives caught the wind of the shambles and took the little nephew to the other room. I wouldn't fight back in front of the child, but I dare to do it only in the adult gallery. Yes, I am. My husband arrived just in time. He came into the room thinking everyone is having a good time, but instead, a gloomy atmosphere was dominating the entire room. Obviously, he noticed something was wrong. He asked me, whispering, "What is going on?" I told him exactly what his mother said and did to me. No one said anything. They have witnessed all the drama, and everyone knows I'm not making up anything. After he listened to the story, he will stand by my side, hoping he will explain the real reason for his infidelity, saying he is the one with the problem. After he heard what happened, he got really angry at his mother. I could tell she wanted to say something, but she had no intention of talking back to her son. I was expecting her to be quiet for a while. However, my husband's words betrayed me. He whispered so only I could hear.
Anyway, it's a fact that you are infertile, so she can't have a baby with my blood. You need to have more comparisons to her. What an idiot.
Yes, it is true that there is a problem with me getting pregnant, but he is the one with the problem, not me. He sounded like somebody else's problem. I refuted him, whispering,
You are the reason for my infertility. I don't have any problems. Why must I put up with her unreasonable accusations? If you want to be on her side, you explain them. You are the problem.
That's not gonna happen. You know, as a man, I have to have my dignity. You understand, right? You have experience working outside. You know the position of men.
He was in a panic, talking in a high pitch. Moreover, pregnancy is a woman's job. You are not fulfilling your obligation as a woman, so don't blame only me. It was the most stupid scapegoating I've ever heard. This time he said it quite loudly. As soon as my mother-in-law heard it, she jumped into the conversation.
Don't blame my son. What kind of person are you? So cheeky and sassy. I've never seen a daughter-in-law like you, with some nerve.
She verbally abused me as if there was no tomorrow. No one could say anything to my mother-in-law while she was browbeating me. But suddenly, my brother-in-law spoke out loudly.
Enough already.
Until that moment, I thought my brother-in-law had a very calm and peaceful character, so I was really surprised he could yell like that.
You are not satisfied with hurting Patty. You are doing the same thing to Jessica. You saw what happened to Patty, but you didn't learn anything until now.
I had been wondering why Patty didn't come today. Now, I completely understand the situation. Before our marriage, my brother-in-law and Patty were living with my mother-in-law. My brother-in-law and Patty were living together with my mother-in-law. Later, I was told that they moved out from in-law's house because of my brother-in-law's business. At the time, I thought we got to move in and live with my mother-in-law. But it was too far to commute every day to our office, so we have been living 2 hours from her house and never lived together. My brother-in-law exposed what really happened all in family gathering. Patty got pregnant soon after they got married. My mother-in-law was very happy about the news. But once the baby turned out to be female, her attitude was completely changed. My mother-in-law forced Patty her own values of male versus female. Female is worthless. It's a waste of money to raise them just to give to other men. It's her responsibility to have a male. Now she is a married woman, so she must know. The pressure was too much for Patty to handle. She became mentally unstable, and the doctor advised them that she must be away from her mother-in-law. My brother-in-law took it very seriously, and they decided to leave the house. All relatives, especially women, looked down on my mother-in-law. They knew Patty had been bullied, but were too scared to say anything. After my brother-in-law brought to light about her never stopping her daughter-in-law's bullying, my mother-in-law looked at him with anger in her eyes. But he didn't care and said, "Jessica, you can go home. You have no reason to stay here, putting up with my mother's bullshit." My husband tried to stop him, but he shut his mouth when my brother-in-law accused him of not standing up for me. I gave the car key to my husband and took public transportation home. I just said farewell to them and left. My brother-in-law came after me and said, "Jessica, you really should think well for your future." I took it as no need to be in a hellhole. I felt so relieved to get out. When I arrived home before my husband, I packed what I needed and left. I left divorce papers instead of a note. It seemed my husband panicked a bit when he found out I had intentions to divorce. He contacted me quickly, but started to say that I shouldn't be overreacting to her because we only see her twice a year. But the reality is she insults me through her actions and words every single day. SNS or calling me every single day about me not getting pregnant. I had been putting up with it. As a result, I was excluded from the family. By listening to that, I thought my husband would stand up for me. Instead, he rather blamed and humiliated me with his mother. It's no way I can continue to be with him as a family. I told him that my mind has been set already, and it will never be changed. So please, sign the divorce papers and take them to the lawyer. Then I hung up. My husband didn't understand why I stubbornly wanted to divorce. He kept calling and sending messages like an unstoppable radio. Of course, I ignored all of it. It will not be red icon on his message. He should know that is my reply. Patty and my brother-in-law helped me find a place to stay. They also helped me with many other things. They, too, got out of the relationship with the mother-in-law right after the gathering. At the same time, they stopped sending support money to her. The mother-in-law has no job. She is not old enough to receive her pension, so her sons were supporting her by sending money regularly. Of course, she has some savings, but it will be quite difficult for her to maintain her lifestyle. Because my husband makes less money than I do, his earnings aren't enough to support his mother's expenses. The only reason he could do so was that I was working to support our expenses. Once he divorced from me, I doubt he will be able to continue supporting her. As soon as we separated, I could see that I was right. Now her son can't send money for her, and she's had to lower her standard of living. She has no choice but to scrimp and save, but she has been living a lavish lifestyle. She can't handle living a humble life. It's not far from her not being able to take it anymore and starting to borrow money. By taking out a mortgage, she may end up losing everything. My husband, too, is living on the edge. His mother was insisting that he send her money, but he refused. Possibly, their relationship is on the edge as well. My husband didn't agree to the divorce. Instead, he was insisting on making up, but once I hired a lawyer, it ended quite fast. I discovered that my husband has a weakness when it comes to authority. If I had known that earlier, things may have been different. I discovered my husband has a weakness for authority. If I had known that earlier, I could have solved the problem in different ways without wasting my time. I no longer need to be fed up with anything now. I am totally enjoying my life. I have some health issues caused by my ex-mother-in-law, but it's getting better now. My ex-husband was the cause of my infertility, but the mother-in-law was the main problem. From now on, I expect to meet someone who can stand with me as a family in any circumstances. But for now, I want to enjoy being myself a little more.